Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Emily, and I'm with Enlighten 567. We would like to welcome everyone to today's webinar featuring Robin Young. Now, before I pass it over to Robin, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping items to make sure you get the most out of today's event. You will see a Q&A section on the right side of your screen. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them here. They're completely private and only visible to the presenter. We will be asking some polling questions throughout the webinar and would love your feedback. However, if you do not wish to answer, you can simply exit out of the pop-up window. Today's presenter will be offering a complimentary consultation as a part 2 of the webinar. She will share more details on this later in the presentation. If you're interested in scheduling a consultation, you can click the pop-up that appears periodically on your screen. And now, a little bit about Robin. Robin Young is a certified financial planner and a certified financial transitionist, and has been a fiduciary advisor for over 30 years, providing comprehensive wealth management services to individuals and families. Unlike most financial advisors who have been trained on only the technical side or the number side of financial planning, Robin has an expertise in helping clients through major life transitions where both money and life is changing. She helps her clients align their personal values and priorities with their financial resources, creating a stronger sense of personal and financial well-being to live their desire. Northstar Financial Planning is a full-service firm offering financial life and transition planning, retirement planning, investment management, tax planning, and charitable planning as a start. The entire team of advisors are CFPs and have had in-depth training through the Financial Transitionist Institute to help clients through major life changes. Together, they offer the highest level of personalized service, expertise, and attention to clients. Please welcome our speaker for today, Robin Young.
Hello and welcome. Thank you so much, Emily, for the kind introduction. I'm extremely excited to be here to present an invitation to reimagine retirement. Retirement is such a major life transition, and we're going to talk about what that means because we are potentially in this phase of life for decades, and we're living longer and we are retiring earlier. So creating a vision that you are excited about is really important if you're here today, and that's what we're going to focus on. The financial services industry has typically focused on the financial side of your retirement experience, the financials of, what do I need? How much do I have? And how to create a paycheck as just a few of the items. But they're really missing a big component, which is the personal side of retirement. It's how we make decisions. It's what's important to us, your goals, your dreams, all of those emotions that are involved. Because the personal side is really driving decision-making in most situations. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. So my hope today is to present to you a way to structure your planning for retirement in a way that you can really integrate the personal with the financial for an increased sense of confidence, a higher sense of well-being, and to increase your overall satisfaction and enjoyment in your retirement years. So let's get started. So one of the first things is that words matter. I think when you think about retirement for prior generations, there were some negative connotations about that. So whether it be you were going to be pensioned off or put out to pasture, those are the types of things that we don't want to enter into our vision of retirement. We want to create a vision for ourselves. And so we're going to start with a word. And I would really like this to be a little bit interactive. So putting your comments in the Q&A will be helpful to me to kind of see where you're all at. So as we go along, I'm going to ask you just to enter a few things here and there in that Q&A section. But what's the word that you can think of when you think about your retirement experience? What's a word that might frame that experience for you? I'm going to show you in a minute a few words, but I would like to see what you guys are already thinking about in terms of your retirement years. So I see a few people are putting in adventure, which is certainly an exciting part of a retirement vision. I see fun. I see family. That might be something that someone might have missed during their working years. And actually, I see the word recover is another comment. And recover is an interesting one as well, because that means that someone may be at a point where they are just so ready to retire and they need that space and time to kind of reimagine. Or it could be someone who wants really to recover some of what they've gotten through their working years. So really, this just shows why this is such a personal experience for each and every person. And it's very hard to compare your retirement to someone else's. So if we go to the next slide, you're going to see the types of words that you could use to frame your retirement, or you can have one of your own. But these are positive words, and these are going to help you create that exciting vision for your retirement years. So words like rewire, reimagine, reorganize, and reframe. So what I would like you to do is start a journal, or if you have paper or a place to write stuff down, pick a word that sounds right for you. It doesn't matter if you want to change it at some point. It's just a starting point. So the next concept is really that retirement is a major life transition, and all major life events have predictable stages of transition. They have the ending, where you're stepping over the line and from what was to what will be. So there's no going back when an ending occurs. They have the passage stage, where there's possibilities, a lot of change is happening. There could be some emotions of fear, chaos, until you really get to that new normal, where you're launching into that phase of, you're recreating that next phase of life, no matter what your transition is, whether it is retirement, marriage, divorce, a loss of a loved one. Those three stages happen in all situations. In retirement is a planned transition. So there's an anticipation stage. And in that anticipation stage, as well as some other planned transitions, it's the preparation stage. It's where you're really setting your expectations of what you want that new normal to look like. And so you could be on the doorstep of retirement in starting your anticipation stage, or you could be 20 years out, right? We kind of already are with the 401k plans and the things that we're doing financially. So a lot happening generally on the savings side, maybe not as much happening on the life side of what you want that vision to look like, and really testing out some of those possibilities. So for your retirement transition, you have your anticipation, then you give your notice, you step over the line, and your life as you know it is ended. And you are now in control of your time. You are now in control of your money and in control of who you spend your time with. So the ending is a busy phase. There's a lot of change happening. So when you look at these four stages, what I want you to do is figure out where you are in your stage in transition, and make a note for that for yourself about that, because we're going to kind of pull this all together at the end, kind of the word that you're going to launch yourself into transition, and then which stage you're at. The passage stage is an interesting stage because it's the stage of possibility. It's the stage of adaptation, but it's also the stage of chaos. And our brains are hardwired not to like chaos. So if we're unsure, if we're unknown, if we don't know, I guess is the way to put it, where we're going to live, how we want to spend our time, if we don't know, where we want to travel to, any of those things, it creates fear and it creates stress. And so naturally, we want to push to the new normal by just making quick decisions. And that doesn't always serve you long term. This can also happen around the financial side of making commitments around real estate or investment products. So passage time really is a time where it would be better if you could give yourself some space and time to adjust to your new normal. Adjust to your new life so that when you're ready and you feel like you have examined the possibilities out there and have tested some of the options, then you can take steps to really step into your new normal. With my clients, I've seen people make commitments around charitable organizations with their time that they later regretted because they wanted to spend more time with their family. I've seen the opposite of agreeing to babysit for grandkids when maybe they really want more leisure time and time to reconnect with their spouse. So giving yourself, not committing and not setting expectations with family is a really important part of passage, of just taking your time so that you can really make that new normal where routines are set and you're kind of living your best life the best it can be. So now we know your word, where you are in transition. Now it's time to identify what are the personal aspects in a retirement transition. And we begin this, research by thinking about the fact that there are two sides of money. There's the technical side. We're all very familiar with the technical side. It's talked a lot about. We've been dealing with it as we're preparing for retirement. Taxes, investments, cash flow, estate planning. Those are things that are pretty black and white. They're objective. The personal side, those are our relationship, our emotions. What I like to think about it is that we show up, with our backpack of all of these items. And part of understanding how we make decisions is unpacking those things. It's our history. It's our beliefs about money. Because what I do know, or what research has shown, is that the personal side drives decision making. And I'm sure you have seen situations with your friends, your family, yourself, where the answer from a technical financial standpoint was very clear cut. But your values, some emotion made you choose in a different direction. I can think of lots of examples with clients around spending. But another example is debt and cash flow in retirement. And so if you think about a couple or if you're on your own, how do you feel about debt? How do you feel about paying down your mortgage? If you don't like risk and you don't want to have to make that payment, then paying down that mortgage might make perfect sense from a personal perspective. But from a financial perspective, depending on your rate, it may not make a lot of sense. So really understanding the technical side and the personal side to make the best decision for you and your family. And for couples, this can create conflict if one person feels one way, yet another person feels another way. And how do you work through the personal side to get to the right answer for your family? So considering both aspects in your retirement transition is important because they're both equally important and complex. So what I'd like you to do is just think about the things that are showing up for you in your retirement planning on the personal side. Can you think of an example where your emotions might have impacted your decision making, or your relationship, agreeing to go along when maybe that didn't make the best sense for you from a well-being standpoint? So I'm going to show you how that kind of plays out in life on the next slide. This slide really identifies the transition characteristics that you may be experiencing in your retirement transition. So we have flow characteristics, which are generally positive, right? We're realistic, we can see possibilities, we're open, we're collaborative, we have consistent behavior, and we have some clarity around what we want. Struggle characteristics, on the other hand, are a little bit more negative. Your identity, you might feel compromised about how you're going to fulfill that moving forward. When you no longer have your career, you may feel confusion and overwhelm. So it might be helpful to, in the Q&A, post how you're feeling about your retirement transition. So that we can get a sense of where people are at in their transition journey. So I think that in general, if you're feeling struggle, that is really a warning sign, right? It's like a red flashing light that says caution. There's something else that needs to happen here. So I see a few people have posted that they're confused and overwhelmed, right? There are lots of change happening personally and financially. There's a lot of decision making happening. So confused and overwhelmed client who would walk in my door, we would go through the process of prioritizing decision making to take stuff off the table that isn't important. So depending on which stage that you're in, you may have different options there. So to give you your sense of like things I have to do now, things that I have to do soon, and maybe things I can push off till later, can be a helpful way to push away that overwhelm. It also may be helpful to rest, to do some self-care so that you're approaching some of the decision making with a clearer view, more clarity for yourself. Another one I see posted is identity, and that's a really big one. I have had clients who have had big jobs and really fulfilling careers. And I actually think about that from my own perspective of how in retirement would I replace, helping people in the way that I help people. And so one client was able to kind of explore some community involvement and got involved with a foundation that is creating trails for the community. So he's a huge outdoor person. He's able to connect with the community, improve the community. And so that has helped him shift from that kind of big title that he had to have some importance in his own community. So whatever that is for you, finding the words that really connect for you and being curious as to what's causing that. Because there could be different actions that you could take. And we're going to go through some of those as we go through how these concepts relate to you specifically. So if you're in flow, you're probably headed down the right path. If you're in struggle, it's a little bit of a warning to slow down, to find some help. I guess that's the other thing with this is that you do not have to do this stuff alone. I'm not sure if you have help on the financial side, but ideally, there is value in advice, and getting the help that you need, both personally and financially, can be really important when you're trying to manage this big of a transition. So the next concept is really one of a growth mindset. So a way to structure your new view of retirement is to understand that you may have challenges and struggles, and you may feel like you're in flow some days, and it's normal to have both. So give yourself room to back up and turn around. So if you're in struggle and you have an identity crisis, maybe one option is just to say, am I really ready to retire? Maybe you're not. Maybe you're not ready to step over that line. Maybe you've communicated with your family and friends that you're going to retire at age X, but giving yourself permission to back it up a bit and turn around is an important part of being adaptive with this big transition. Bring back the vigor and passion. So if you're down a road, if you're still working and you're not feeling any vigor and passion, but you've committed that you're going to retire at 65 because financially that is what makes sense. Well, is that really true? Is there a different way to approach the thinking here? Because you want to follow your vigor and passion even in your working years. So is there a different way to structure maybe an earlier retirement for yourself, or find that vigor and passion in what you're currently doing somehow? So vigor and passion, following that throughout the stages, will help lead you to the activities that really are sustainable, that will give you that big retirement vision that we want you to have, right? It's an exciting time of life. You're essentially it's like you're 20, but with money, right? You've saved and you've worked really hard to get where you are at, and you have this next big phase of life, hopefully. And so, allowing yourself to think big and dream big so that you can have that experience that you want. Getting in better mental and physical shape, starting that today, because if you don't have your health, then it's going to be hard to have that retirement vision that you want. And so whether you're on the doorstep of retirement 10 years out or newly retired, having this as a priority will only make your life better. Stop worrying and get excited. Kind of that goes to the vigor component. It goes to the stress and overwhelm. What do you need to do in your life to help you get excited? Is it more self-care? Is it slowing down the process? Or maybe you're stuck and you need to move forward in some way, like try out an activity, travel to somewhere to see if you like it. So what actions for you make the most sense to help you stop worrying and get excited? Sometimes too much planning can be a problem. It's just more doing. So finding new people to hang around with, that is really an important part, and one I don't think clients think about enough, is that who is going to want to do the activities that you want to do in retirement, and connecting with those people as soon as you can, even pre-retirement. Whether it be you want to play pickleball, maybe it's finding people who are doing that. Or maybe you want to travel more or do boating and joining a boating club. So it's really what types of activities you want to do and who will do those with you so that you can start that process. Spend time making a difference. I mean, that we're going to talk about in a few slides. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but research has shown that increases your happiness factor and have more fun. So retirement, this vision, this dream that we're going to create, it is fun. It's fun to think about. We think about that when we buy a lottery ticket, right? So it just goes a little bit deeper because we are really thinking about things that we want to do in our life for the rest of our life. And we have the opportunity to dig deeper here today. So that's a little bit about how you can structure your thinking. And then this is coming down more to you personally. So if you're taking notes, thinking about these aspects in your own life. So the first one is community. So this is being involved, whether it's with one person or a group of people on an ongoing basis, in your community, creating those social networks for yourself. And I've definitely seen this with couples, in that it needs to be more than the coupleship in general, because what happens if someone is gone? So creating your own personal networks and community, and creating community in your coupleship is extremely important, and creates happiness and connection later in your later years. Control, you are the pilot of your own plane. So you're in control of where you're going, you're in control of who's on board, and you're in control of your money. So that can be a big responsibility, but it's also a really exciting thing. I mean, we've, kind of gone from parents to working for someone else potentially. So for a lot of us, it would be the first time that we are in control of our own life completely. And so that can be filled with a lot of emotion, and, thinking about where you are with this in terms of the flow and struggle. Are you sort of taking charge and ready to go? Or are you feeling a little bit tentative about some of that? And do you need to get help to help you move forward? So don't be afraid to, find the resources that you need to make this a positive experience for yourself. Contribution is that giving back component, whether it be giving back to your community, to the greater world in some way, your gifts. And clients who are able to do that, I see their fulfillment rise. And research has shown that it is an important part of creating a happy, fulfilled life. So when you're thinking about all of the activities that you might want to do in retirement, putting them through this filter helps narrow the list maybe a little bit. Maybe it grows the list. So it will be one concept that I want you to think of as you're creating that retirement vision. And then we're going to create a retirement calendar, and it's taking the 3 C's and the activities that you might have and running them through this filter a little bit further. So you want your activities in retirement to be routine, social, challenging, and measurable. And I can give you a personal example. I had joined a wine and dine golf league. And it's essentially a golf league where you go out with a bunch of women and you have some wine. It's a lot of fun. So it's routine, right? It was on my calendar every week over the summer. It's very social. I got to meet a lot of women and we had a lot of fun together. But it wasn't really challenging because we weren't keeping score. It wasn't measurable. And I wasn't trying to improve in that format. So that really wouldn't fit with an activity that would lead to flow. So if it meets all 4 of these, it would contribute to your flow in retirement. If it doesn't meet those, it can still be on your calendar, but you want to fill your calendar with things that meet all 4. So one way that I was able to make it a flow experience for myself was I joined, because I love golf, I joined a different league where it was challenging. The women are keeping score and I was improving. And that's exciting. It's exciting to improve on something, to be involved in something that you can watch yourself get better. So taking the activities that come to mind when you're thinking about creating that vision, the life that you want to lead, and putting them through that filter. And then thinking about, the calendar of how are you filling your days? How are you filling your days daily, weekly, monthly, and annually? So I think if you start that kind of calendar, you'll realize how much time there is, and that maybe exploring a little bit more some activity options for yourself would make sense. Okay, so let's just take a pause here for a second and deep breath. And because it's a lot, right? It's a lot to imagine. It's a lot of change happening. And so what I really want you to do now is take a moment and think about, are you ready to retire? Think about those flow characteristics and those struggle characteristics and how they apply personally and financially. So, and put in the chat. Well, it's actually not a chat, it's Q&A. Chat is not open. In the Q&A, if you could put, are you ready to retire? I've got a few thumbs up. I've got a few not sure. Yeah, so it's kind of all over the board. And it will be. I think every person is different, and everyone's feelings and emotions around retirement is different. So exploring that for yourself personally is what we're going to do next. We're going to look at the 5 aspects of your life in retirement. And we have one slide first, which is, before we get there, I want you to think about the 6 questions for retirement. And these are questions that I ask every client who is getting closer to retirement, pre-retirement, to really help them delve into the personal side for themselves. So what does retirement mean to you? And again, if you have your notepad, taking some notes if anything feels important. If you had unlimited resources, what would you do? I mean, that's really the lottery question, but we have the opportunity to go a little bit deeper now that we know the personal side of money, what flow looks like, what those 3 C's activities might look and feel like. We can sort of build it out in a way that might be more meaningful for us. What would you be excited about? In the last few questions, I like to think of in terms of the 5 aspects which are coming up. So I'm going to go there. So these are the 5 facets. So we have personal relationships, financial, housing, daily life, and physical energy and health. So what would you want to keep in all of these? What would you want to create? And what would you like to let go of? So those 3 questions, as we're going through this, might be helpful for you to consider. So in our personal relationships section, are you looking forward to retirement? So I'm going to give you an opportunity to answer these questions for yourself and to consider, is this a flow experience for you, your personal relationships, or is it something that causes you some struggle? I can think of an example. So for my clients, I have a lot of them are, a good portion of them. And then some of them are in traditional relationships where the husband has the big job and the wife is the household manager and manages and takes care of the children. So when there's talk of retirement in some of those relationships, it's really interesting because the wife's comment is something like, so you're telling me I'm going to get 2 times the husband with half the income. And I think that is really talking about the fact that the wife has created her retirement to some extent already and building her routines, her relationships, most likely, and in most cases, the children have launched. And so the retirement for that spouse has already happened. And so you're talking about adding someone to that mix. It can be disruptive. And for the husband who is the career person, may be looking forward to spending time with his family because he's had to spend so much time away. And so working through that with a couple on the personal side of what would be meaningful for them, how do they vision their life together and separately, is a critical part to having them have a happy and fulfilling life together. So thinking about your relationships in that time. And another one is kind of repairing relationships with family if you haven't had the time. I have clients who really want to go down that path. So that's personal relationships. Then we have financial, and I'm interested if you guys want to put in the Q&A, do you have a clear idea of your income streams? And I have my own experience with clients on this one. So if you wouldn't mind putting in the Q&A, are you confident? Are you uncertain? And are you fearful? Yes, so lots of you put uncertain and fearful. There's a few confidence, but I think that knowing your numbers is so important. Knowledge is power. So when clients walk in my door and they are uncertain and fearful, creating the financial plan, their life plan, understanding those numbers is life-changing for them to build their confidence, to gain a better sense of well-being, and to be able to make decisions. It's hard to make decisions if you're not sure where your income's coming from, if you have no idea what you're going to need once you're relying on your portfolio for your paycheck. So knowing your numbers will increase your feeling of well-being, where most people think, oh gosh, I don't want to know, to some extent. It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind, but it does occupy space in your brain, whether you realize it or not. And it is creating stress in your life. So highly recommend that you know your numbers. And if you don't know how to do that, getting help to do that is critically important. Lots of clients aren't sure if their resources will last their lifetime. So again, that's just running the numbers. It's really getting a base financial plan and then doing scenario planning around all of the possibilities that you want your life to look like. So spend time on the financial. Again, the financial and personal are equally important. You cannot do one without the other and have that satisfaction that you want in your retirement years. Housing. So we have a lot of people, I have a lot of clients who are unsure about what they want their housing to look like, where they want to live even in their retirement years. A lot have dreams of owning waterfront property, but as we all know, the price of waterfront property is pretty high. And so understanding what your housing needs are now and in the future, and housing needs, like what would owning a waterfront property feel like? What is important about that to you? Who would gather there? How would you spend your time? I think going through some criteria on what would be important in your housing needs is one of the first steps. And then considering other options. So testing out different scenarios. And then if you're staying in your current home, is it equipped to age well with you? So that might be someone in their later years of retirement. If they're in the big house, I see that happening. So depending on your stage of life, staying in the current home is becoming a bigger and bigger component of people's lives. So just making sure that you're financially prepared to help it age well with you, whether it's putting in elevators these days, or making sure you can do one floor living, housing. From a financial perspective, you need to consider both sides of that for yourself. So daily life. So how are you spending your time every day? So that goes back to the calendaring of activities. So I will give you an example of the second question, which have you explored new activities and hobbies and started experimenting with some? So I had a client who really had a big career and really never had time to pursue his creative hobbies. He's a very creative guy and was really interested in exploring all sorts of creative in terms of his writing. But he also decided to try to play the guitar, and that was 10 years ago. And today, he just recorded an album for himself. He's singing lullabies and writing the lullabies to his grandchildren. So that's an example of kind of putting yourself out there, playing the guitar. He was 60 or so at the time. And he's going to open mics and performing. So it's really been a wonderful stage of life for him. And he's really been able to expand his life and his world and really bring such a gift to his family around that. So how do you want to spend your time? What new hobbies can you explore? And creating that action plan for yourself. So again, taking a moment to write down how you're feeling about daily life. And if you're in retirement, are you in flow? Are you struggling and have some challenges? Kind of going back to that new vision of retirement, do you need to back up and take a different path? Maybe pause on some of the things that you're doing to give room to find something new. So daily life is an important thing to spend time creating. Then we have physical energy and health. And it all begins with the assessment of, how are you doing today with that? Because that is what's going to lead you into your retirement years. Do you have the energy that you want to pursue your interests in retirement? And what might you need to make changes in your physical energy and health? Again, finding the resources to help you build this component up and get you into flow is important and needs to be part of your financial plan. This is, again, where the two entwine. You need to allot monies towards this goal so that you can live your life to the fullest. And that's a conversation about how much maybe, and this is also where your history, maybe you've never spent money on things like that. Maybe you're uncomfortable with that. So being curious as to how this fits into your life and what might need to be overcome to get you there, if it's a priority for you. So we've gone through the 5 facets of life to help you determine if you're in flow or if you have some obstacles that you need to work on. We know what stage of transition is, what your word is. We have some structure to our thinking. So now it's really stress testing those scenarios, both on a financial level and on a personal level. So the financial level is how much questions, right? How much do I need to fund my health care? Maybe it's you need massages. Maybe you need a fitness coach. How much do I need if I want to winter in Florida? That's something we get all the time. Well, are you renting? So if you're renting, are you buying? What does life look like from a personal perspective? And then we can answer the financial side of it. So for most of this, it starts with the personal. The personal needs to be addressed first so you can answer the how much questions. The what if questions. What if I get sick? What if my spouse and I aren't on the same page? What if my children have expectations? So there are a zillion what if questions that might apply here. So what are the what if questions that you can think of? What if my aging parents need assistance? What are the ones that might disrupt your plan for your future? And how can we incorporate some of that into our planning? The when questions, I've addressed this a few times just in terms of when do you step over the line, I think is one when question. Are you ready? Does that feel right for you? Another when question might be, when do you move out of the big house? When do you buy the property, your vacation home, or maybe move to a vacation home as your primary property? Those are some of the when questions. When do you share your legacy? This is one I haven't talked about yet, but is a big personal question. If you've accumulated wealth over your lifetime, how do you give and share that with your family, with charitable organizations in a way that helps you feel like you stewardship of your money? So there's so much involved in that one question alone on a personal level, because if we think about our history, where did the money come from? Was it inherited money? Did I earn the money? And how do I want my children to receive that? There's been a zillion, news articles about how families have dealt with this kind of thing. So the when question is important for you both personally, but also how you give and share your wealth. And then the why, which is all the life personal side. It's really the beginning of where everything needs to start is, why is this important to me? Why do I want to travel? Why do I want to retire? What is it that I want to do? What is important to me to have in my life? So answering all of the why questions of, why do I want this life in retirement, will help you stress test your scenarios and help you clarify your path as you answer these questions. Hopefully, the goal is to clarify your path that you're on and make this big vision of retirement that you're creating for yourself exciting and energized. So stress testing your scenarios may seem like work, but it actually can be a really enjoyable journey. So I'd like to close by just summing up all of the things that we went through. So first is retirement is a huge life transition. And if you're feeling any of the struggle traits, that is completely normal and part of the process. That's the personal experience, the human condition that we all live under when we experience change. Our brains are hardwired not to want to change. And so when we push ourselves in these ways, it is no doubt that we were going to have some of the stress and the overwhelm that you might be feeling. So it's okay. It's part of the process. The second thing is to really understand that these transitions are more complicated and take longer than most people realize. And so don't feel pressure to make big decisions about your real estate or where you're going to live or when you're going to sell the big home. Really give yourself the space and time that you need to create the right path for you. If you do so, you will have less regret because some of these decisions are irreversible. Investment products is another one that comes to mind. So just giving yourself the space to find the right fit for you. And the third thing is, I have been doing this work for over 30 years, helping my clients manage their wealth. And it's really over the last 20 years through my life planning and being a certified financial transitionist that I have focused my energies on the life side, the personal, the why questions, helping clients define that side for themselves so they can make better financial decisions. And what I can say is that it has led for my clients to better outcomes, stronger relationships with each other and with their family members, and more fulfilling and satisfying life. So I am excited for you, and I hope that I have created some value for you today in thinking about how you're going to reimagine your retirement. So thank you so much for attending. I appreciate it. So a little bit of housekeeping. We are going to, I have offered to spend 20 minutes with you if there are questions or personal circumstances that you would like to discuss with me. So it's a complimentary call or a Zoom call at the end that you can schedule on my Calendly link. So in that meeting, I will have a checklist that I will provide that will help you go through some of the personal and financial considerations, if appropriate. So I know there are a lot of things happening in the Q&A session that my team might not have been able to get to, but I am happy to address any of those things with you personally and would be excited to do so. So please schedule with me in the Calendly link to continue this conversation so I can help. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be here.